Dear friends, this is the incident of Maulana's goat, about which it became famous that it had given birth to a human-like child. So friends, what happened when people came to know that Molvi Sahib's goat had given birth to a human-like child? Let's listen. But before that, you are requested to like our video. Friends, this is the incident of a Molvi Sahib, whose name was Sajid. He says that I made the biggest mistake of my life. Such a mistake which a man should never make. Do listen to this story till the end. Only then you will understand. Let us listen to this story in the words of the same Molvi Sahib. I don't know what was happening in my house for the last few days. Now I am worried about this result. But I came to know that this house is haunted because I used to hear strange sounds. One night when I woke up, I saw that my wife was not present in the bed. My wife was very beautiful and young. I followed her. When I came out of the room, first I saw her in the kitchen. After that, she started going to the back part of the house where I had tied my goat Rano, which was my very beloved goat. But I was surprised to see the scene in front of me, my goat Ranu. He was not feeling well, and my wife went and stood near him, and after seeing the thing lying on the ground, it seemed as if both of us had lost our lives. My name is Sajid. I'm the Imam of a mosque. There was a woman in my life, Najma, who was my wife. I had seen many dreams together at the beginning of life, and Najma had always sacrificed everything for me. She accepted everything with patience, but as time passed, her body started getting fat. It may be a very minor thing, but I started teasing her on this matter. I remember that I would often tell her that if you don't correct yourself, then I will marry someone else. On these words of mine, her face would become sad, and there would be sadness in her eyes. Moisture comes. She would go and fold her hands with me and apologize. Her voice would waver and say, "What have I done for you? I have given you 2 sons. I've followed your every order, and in return I'm getting this punishment." But I don't pay any attention to her. I tell her every day. He used to scare me by telling me new things and threatening me with the threat of a second marriage, and the poor girl silently tolerated my words and kept crying in her heart. Finally, he started saying that if you get married for the second time, then remember that you will never be happy with your new wife. My wife will not be able to give you the peace that I have given you. Her curse always echoed in my ears, but I never took her seriously. Although there was no flaw in Nazma, to tell the truth, she had sacrificed her life for me and took every responsibility of the house very well. She was a very loving, mature woman who used to follow my every order. Yes, she had become fat with time, but one of the reasons for that was that both our sons were born through the operation, and it had an impact on her health. She was not able to pay attention to herself. She was busy with household chores all the time. I still remember the day when I married Najma, and at that time she was very beautiful and had long, dark eyes, clear hair and big eyes. The whole village used to talk about her beautiful beauty. People used to say, "Sajid, your luck has run out. You have got such a beautiful wife." I was also very happy and wanted to spend my life with her. I was dreaming a lot about it, but then time changed and my thinking started changing. Now my heart told me to get married for the second time. Maybe at that time my decision was not without any reason. I wanted something new in my life, and I thought that if another wife came, there would be freshness and change in my life. With this thought, I secretly started looking for a girl. I also talked to the people around me. I was not a poor man, God forbid. Indeed, I had family land and animals too. I had many cattle, and there was a special goat whom I named Rano. Rano goat was very close to my heart, and I loved it like a man loves himself. I love my daughter, and perhaps there was this desire hidden in my heart that Allah should give me a daughter. But in my house, there were only sons. Perhaps I tried to fulfill my passion for a daughter in my beloved goat Rano. Time would take care of it, feed it with her own hands, talk to it. She would lighten the burden of my heart. Najma also took great care of Rano goat. She never underestimated her love for my goat. In fact, she would feed it with her own hands, taking care of it. She used to understand that my love for Rano was a matter of eating away the love of my heart. Our house was also very big and was built on the lines of old times. The rooms were big and open. This house was looked after by Najma only. There were no servants. She used to spend the whole day alone doing household chores, cooking, cleaning, and taking care of the children. All the responsibilities were on Najma's shoulders. I never thought of this. One day, I decided to talk to some of my close acquaintances. The thought had become firm in my heart that now I should get married for the second time, but my heart wanted this. The second marriage should be with a young and beautiful girl. I did not tell my acquaintances that I wanted an older woman or a widow. My condition was that the girl should be young, exactly 18 or a maximum of 20 years, like in my story. You're thinking about the next part. And then he started saying slowly. Hearing this, my relatives looked at me with surprise. They knew me very well, and Najma too. In their eyes, Najma was very dear and loved. Whenever he used to come to our house, Najma would leave no stone unturned in taking care of him. Sometimes she would cook and feed him, and sometimes she would listen to him with a smile. My relatives were in awe of her love and service. My relatives felt strange after listening to me. He looked at me and said, "Sajid, you will really do this to your sister-in-law. You intend to marry for the second time, and that too with a young girl. Have you never taken care of your sister-in-law? If you marry an older woman or a widow, then perhaps there is something else. But your condition is that the girl should be young, which means that you are doing this only to fulfill your desire." I would become silent for some time after listening to what they were saying. I would also feel embarrassed. It felt as if my inner desire had come out in front of everyone. I felt that maybe I was really with Najma. I was being unfair, but then my heart started saying that this was my right, and if my relatives did not want to help me, then I would have to look somewhere else. So I decided that I would fulfill my needs through someone else. I talked to an aunt who arranged a match. She had a lot of knowledge about relationships, and I thought that maybe she would be able to help me. I told her about my wish. Auntie listened to me carefully and said, "Sajid, your age now, not less. You have become the father of 2 children. Your first wife also lives with you. In such a situation, why would a young girl accept a relationship? It seems difficult." I listened to Auntie and started trying to make her understand. I said, "Auntie, I understand that there is an age difference, but I wish to marry a young girl. I want my heart should find peace with her, and a new happiness and crown should be born in my life." Auntie looked at me with one glance as if she had my wish. If it is not suitable for him, then he said, "Okay, Sajid, I will try, but remember it will not be easy to get into such a relationship." I requested him to help me, and my only condition is that the girl should be young and beautiful. I will not talk to relatives. It became expensive because someone came and told Najma the whole story that your husband was busy preparing for a second marriage, although she already knew this. But now she has become even more angry that now you are telling the relatives, so that I can be insulted even more. Everyone will say that there is some fault in Najma. I proved to be a very cruel person. I used all the youth of my wife, made her do the household work, and she gave me 2 sons as heirs, and now I wanted to get married for the second time. If I had got married for the second time, I could have done it with love. I could have done it by convincing her. I could have done it by convincing her. You have done so much work. Now you also need a partner in the house. 2 women. If yes, then it is obvious that the work will be divided between both of them. but I started fighting with her. I said that I would marry again. I would do whatever I want to do. I am a man, and I can do it. I also have money. And she used to say, remember when you didn't have money, you didn't have 2 meals a day. I sold my jewelry and fertilized your land, and only after that, your work was done. Now you say that I have money, so you have to marry again. This money is also mine. It has been given, and that too is in front of me now. She would hold her tongue because obviously it was a big matter for her too, and then I would get more angry and daily fights started in our house. Then one day the auntie who arranged the match also came, and she said there is a girl, her name is Shaheen, when I was shown her picture, and as soon as I saw the picture, I felt as if I had gone mad. She was exactly the kind of girl I wanted. She was beautiful, young too, and had very sharp tantrums. She had only one mother, and I had heard that she was engaged earlier. It happened, but someone due to this reason, the engagement broke. I said whether the engagement was done or rukhsat meant that the girl was still a virgin. I was very happy. I told auntie that I had to marry that girl. Sajid, while narrating his story, says, the day I got married to Shaheen, that day I woke up quickly and got ready. There was a strange feeling of excitement and happiness in my heart. I told my first wife Najma that today I have to go out for some important work. I am going to perform someone's nikah. Being the imam of the mosque, I had to get the nikah performed. I had no idea that all this would happen so soon and that this storm would come so soon in my life. I told a lie and walked out of the house as if it was nothing special. There was joy and restlessness in my heart. It was a strange weight. I reached out to a few of my close friends and decided to make them witnesses in my marriage. They were surprised to see my happiness and perhaps a little angry too, but I convinced them. The marriage ceremony was small and simple, just us. There were only a few people, and I held Shaheen's hand and completed the marriage ceremony. At that moment I felt as if the biggest wish of my life had been fulfilled. Shaheen was really very beautiful. The glow of her face, the innocence of her eyes, her presence. The attraction of everything was beyond my eyes. My eyes remained fixed on her, and a feeling of peace and happiness awakened in my heart. When the marriage took place, I came back home with Shaheen. There was new enthusiasm in my heart, and I was sure that now a new happiness would start in my life. As soon as we reached the door, I held Shaheen's hand. At that moment, I was happy, and also had an idea of Najma's bad execution. As soon as I reached Shaheen's door, Najma's eyes fell on us. At first she couldn't believe that all this was real. First surprise appeared on her face, and then there were signs of anger and pain in her eyes. There were deep lines of disbelief and shock. I realized that this moment was unbearable for her. For a few moments, she looked at us with disbelief, then suddenly her face paled, and she fell unconscious on the ground, as if her world had vanished in a moment. You must have been shattered. I saw Najma falling, but at that time I had such passion and affection for Shaheen that she did not give me a chance to think about anything else. I moved towards the room with my new bride. There was a strange indifference in my heart, as if I was about to start my new life, and I no longer had any connection with my old life. Perhaps at that moment, I was burdened by my desires, and in my eyes, like Najma, there was no one at that time. It didn't matter. Now, while telling my story, I realized that I should not have done this. I could have taken her into confidence, but what I did was very bad. When I married Shaheen, she was very beautiful to look at. Like a princess of dreams, there was a newness and charm in everything about her. She was attracting me towards her. On the first night, when she asked for the gift of eating her mouth, I thought that this was a tradition, and new brides make such requests. But for the first time, I realized that perhaps she was more interested in my property and wealth than in my caste. Najma was so simple that at the time of marriage she took only a 100 rupee note, and that too in big size. I happily confessed that Najma was not concerned about my status and wealth. For her, our love and relationship were more important. But Shaheen's case was completely different from hers. She took a gold set from me and at the same time asked for a diamond set as well. She clearly said that next time she wants a diamond set. In the initial days of marriage, I liked her tantrums to some extent. There was a newness in my heart, and I thought that maybe she was expressing her love for me. She is expressing in this way, but with the passage of time, I realized that Shaheen had no special interest in my life or emotions. Her eyes were on my money. Everything was subject to her wishes, and my wealth and property were those expensive clothes. As time passed while she was requesting the jewelry, Shaheen's true nature started to emerge. She was not only ill-mannered, but also had a strange harshness and impatience in her attitude before even talking to her. I had to think 4 times that she might take offense to what I said. There was a lack of softness in her nature. I had to be very careful while talking in front of her, but on the other hand, I never felt like this with my first wife Najma. I used to say everything that was in my heart. I always felt relaxed with her, and if ever I got angry, she would remain completely silent. She would never even open her mouth in front of me. She would just listen to me silently and spend time with me. It was Najma's habit of letting her cool down that made her settle in my heart. Her every silence and expression was her real victory. With time, a man himself understands and accepts her words, but this was not the case with Shaheen. Every time I talked to him, I was afraid that he might find something bad or that he might get angry with me, but with regret, I have to say that his stubbornness, pride and desire for money were hidden in everything I said. I had married Shaheen in search of love. She was nowhere to be found. Her attitude was bad, and it became difficult for me to live a life with her. There was a regret in my heart that I had not married such a simple, patient and loving woman despite her qualities. Rejected, and now I was feeling uneasy and confused in my life at the hands of Shaheen. The house was very big, but it was Shaheen who raised the alarm that I wanted to live in a separate part, so I decided to do so. And the children were shifted to the rear part of the house, and the 2 big rooms and hall in front of the house, and the big garden. I had to hand over all that to Shaheen. This also happened badly with Najma, because Shaheen said don't even use the front door. And if the children went to school through the back door, they would have to go through the entire road. He said, don't do bad things to the children. But at that time I was busy in my own talk. I said, go around a bit. What difference does it make if we do it? We also go to school. How many miles did we have to travel on foot to go? What will happen if we travel on the road? He said, there is a lot of rush on the road. I said then, let's be careful, she has eyes. So Najma started looking at me as if one sees one's culprit, but at that time I did not realize how big a blow I was inflicting on her heart. Now she had shifted to the back part of the house and I could not even see her much. The children were visible sometimes. While leaving, I also followed the animals, etc. To fulfill Shaheen's request, I had to sell my 2 cows. Now only Rano goat was left. Friends, this is the same goat about which we had talked in the beginning. Then you listen to what happens to the goat. Sajid further says that I could never even think of selling Rano the goat. One day I had to go to another city for work. This was not a journey of 1 or 2 days, but I had to stay there for a long time. I told Shaheen this. When I told you this thought also came to my heart, that maybe she would stop and say that you should not go, I will miss you. But Shaheen's attitude was as if she did not care much. She just shook her head and said, okay, you go. At that time it was in my heart. I felt a strange disappointment that this love is not like the love that I had seen nurtured in Najma. I gave her advice. Look, now Najma has shifted to the back. There is no other way for you with her. It doesn't matter, so don't bother him. Don't fight with him because we both have children, and he gets worried in such situations. Shaheen said carelessly, don't worry, I won't even look at Najma. I will not stay here much, but will go to my mother's house. I was a little surprised that he did not intend to spend much time here. So I also let him go and said that it was okay to go to my mother's house sometimes, and sometimes back here. Come and stay as you wish. Just follow me and try to save yourself from the fight. She once again said casually, okay. I thought that all this was meaningless for her, but still, she agreed with my point. To keep her happy, I was busy fulfilling her every wish. I also got a big LED TV for her, and also got a dish installed in the house so that her heart does not feel any lack. She loves watching movies, dramas, and songs. I had a hobby, and I did it for him. All these arrangements were made, although Najma had said many times that children should get a dish or cable installed to watch cartoons. But at that time I used to say that this shamelessness would not happen in our house. I had strictly followed the principles in my life, but I did everything at Shaheen's request. Now the sounds of film songs and dramas kept echoing in the house throughout the day, Shaheen being in it. Sometimes songs were playing in a loud voice, and sometimes the dialogues of some films were in my heart. There was definitely tension that the peace of my life, the respect for my house, and the principles that I had always followed in my life, now it was as if everything was going out of one circle. Earlier with Najma, there was peace in the house, and there was an atmosphere of dignity. But after Shaheen's arrival, all that changed, but I was forced to tolerate everything out of love for Shaheen. She would challenge my life in a new way every day, and I would go behind my principles for her happiness. Seeing all this going away, I started feeling a strange burden in my heart. On one hand, there was my character and principles, and on the other hand, there was Shaheen's wish, which I considered extremely important for me to fulfill. But I could not understand the happiness of love, and the comfort of wealth are two different things. I also told Najma not to fight, but I knew that she never starts fights on her own, and I did not even meet her properly, just children. I said, "What is this way? I have already come after so many months, and now you are at my mother's house for a month." She used to say, "Yes, I don't feel like coming back to your house." I got worried after hearing this and started wondering whether she was bored with me because she was a young girl and I was a 45-year-old man. It is possible that Shaheen, fed up with me, went to her mother's house and sat there. I thought that maybe my relationship with Shaheen would give me peace, but it had become another burden. Instead of getting involved in my life, she created her own world, and I lonely myself. I started feeling that during that time, Najma was silently busy with her work. Even if I wanted to go to her, I would be embarrassed and used to think about which way should I go in front of her, and what should I say, how should I face her whose heart I had wounded so many times. But there was never any complaint from Najma's side. Like every day she cooked food for me, ironed my clothes, and she knew that I was ill. She took special care of my health. If I fell ill, forgetting everything, Najma left no stone unturned in serving me. She prepared separate yakni for me, prepared soup for me, arranged for medicines, and took care of my every need. Seeing her doing all this, I started feeling more embarrassed one day. My anger was over, and I told Najma, "Najma, don't do all this work, lest later you say that I did so bad to you. Still, you're serving me, Najma." With great silence and hesitation, I replied, "You are my husband. No matter how bad you do to me, I need to serve you. I cannot leave you alone, especially not when I am sick." These words of his are like a lance in my heart. There was deep seriousness in her eyes. There was a truth which I did not dare to face. I knew that I had repeatedly rejected her love and loyalty, but she never wavered in my service. There was a power of silence in his words, rather than carelessness, which was making me uneasy from within. At that moment, I realized how badly I had treated Najma, and how I was testing her patience. She tolerated everything out of love for me, and she kept sacrificing her happiness, and gave up everything for my happiness. But in my misunderstanding, I could not understand her purpose. Now I realized that I had taken advantage of her patience, and I had taken the wrong advantage of love. That day I realized that I had to be punished for whatever I did to Najma. The peace that was in my life was related to Najma's love and sacrifice, and I took her away from me and started living my life. Now it was time for my punishment for my biggest mistake, and I knew that it would not be easy to face it. Najma's wife and her unconditional love were in front of my eyes, and I stood silent, carrying the burden of my mistakes. While narrating his story further, Sajid says that this incident was an important turning point in my life. One day, an old friend of mine who had been with me since childhood, whom I told about marrying Shaheen, came back, and he had gone to the enemy country for some time. When he came back from there, I told him that I had got married for the second time. I told him everything, that Shaheen is the new partner of my life, Hyatt, and we both are very happy. My friend's marriage was the same which I had told him about. He became silent for some time and then said, "That is, despite having such a good wife, you got married for the second time." There was a strange look on his face, as if he was doubting the wisdom of my decision. I said, "Yes, this is for me. The decision was right, and I am happy." Then he asked me, whom did I marry? When I took Shaheen's name, his face suddenly changed, and he became silent for a few moments. I said, "What happened? Why did you become silent?" Then he said, "Man, the girl is not well. Didn't you hear that she has got the boys of the entire neighborhood following her?" As soon as I heard this, it was as if there was darkness in front of my eyes. Storms of questions started rising in my mind. I immediately stopped her. "There is no such things about my wife. Don't do it. Now she is my wife, and it is not your right to point fingers at her character." My friend remained silent and then said, "Okay, she is your wife. I will not say anything, but this is the truth. What I told you, again by saying this." I became silent and took the burden of her words in my heart. I left her, but after that moment a new worry was born in my mind. I asked myself whether Shaheen is really like that, as my friend told me. Have I understood her correctly? I couldn't guess whether my love had made me oblivious to her reality. I was thinking about all this, and the pain in my heart kept on increasing. Then I took the help of my wisdom, and I said that if Shaheen's character had been like this, by now, some drama would have definitely happened, and I would have understood its reality. But still, there was a pain in my heart. There was a question as to whether I acted so hastily. Looking at Shaheen, I kept thinking that she was a clean and respectable girl. I used to think that she could never be like what my friend told me about her, but still, that doubt came into my heart. I tried to convince myself that whatever it may be, she is still not the same it happened to me. My friend had told me this, but still, this question started rising in my heart. I started asking myself whether I had understood her completely. Is Shaheen the girl whom I should trust? Or is there something else hidden which I tried to know? No, I consoled myself that whatever was visible might be as I had imagined, but these questions kept echoing in my mind. One day, such a moment came into my life which troubled me so much that even I myself got surprised. One day my son came to me and said, "Abba, Amma is very unwell, she is very upset, please leave soon." I thought that perhaps this would be a routine unwell and some minor illness, so I did not take it too seriously. But when I reached Najma, her body was lifeless. She was lying on the bed, unconscious. I immediately took her to the doctor and came back after some time. But when he came back, Shaheen was present at home. She was sitting in a relaxed manner. I said, "Where have you come from?" Shaheen replied, "You have come. I have my own house. I can come wherever I feel like." She answered me very nonchalantly, as if it was a trivial matter. Then she further said, "You are talking to your first wife. Did you take me for a walk?" I immediately said, "Don't talk unnecessarily." Najma was very unwell, but I did not tell Shaheen that Najma was actually going to be a mother, and this news was a happy occasion for me, my first. My wife was Najma, and if I was having a child again, then it was a happy occasion for me. But there was another thing in my heart, that I wanted the child to be from Shaheen. But Shaheen was my new wife, and I wanted her to be in my life. It may be a new beginning, but still, Najma was a part of my life, and if she was going to become a mother, then it was a matter of happiness for me. When Najma came to know that she was going to become a mother again, then she was not happy at all. There were lines of sadness on her face, and she said, "You had left us alone. We already have 2 children. How will I handle 3 children?" There were signs of trouble on her face, and she did not at all want to have too many responsibilities in her life. I told her, tried to console her and said, "I'm not dead yet. I'm still alive, and I will not let you suffer any trouble." But there was no hope in her eyes. She was looking at me with a broken heart, as if she was sure that in life, Majid, difficulties were going to come. There was a strange panic in my heart, because I knew that Najma was about to go through a lot of trouble. At that time, I realized that perhaps I had given her the trouble which she did not deserve at all. I wanted my life to be happy with Shaheen, but Najma's pain was making me realize my responsibilities. At that time, I was feeling trapped in such a way that somewhere I had caused trouble to both wives. It was one night when I was sitting in my room reading a book. It was nighttime when people were sleeping in their rooms and there was peace. Suddenly, I heard the cry of a child coming from the house. The sound was very clear, and I immediately felt that the sound was coming from my house. I immediately listened with my ears, but when I went out of the room and looked, there was nothing. Shaheen was sleeping in her room. Then I also looked towards Najma's room. Everything there too. It was fine. No one was crying there. After paying attention to the sound for some time, I convinced myself that maybe I had heard something wrong or it was an imaginary thing. But then, after 2 days, I heard the same sound again. Now I started to feel that perhaps this was not just a coincidence, and that sound was so clear and was coming from inside my house, as if it was not the cry of a small child who hides in some corner and cries. It was scary in my mind. The thought came to me, is there any unusual thing in our house? Could this sound be of a jinn or some stray souls? I started feeling as if there was a shadow in our house and some jinn or demon was with us, and these children were there. Whenever there was a sign of its presence, I would often think about the same voice at night, and the fear would grow in my heart that maybe there was something else going on which I was not able to understand. These voices had put him in such a state of panic that I was forced to think whether something really strange is happening. When something happens to you for which you cannot understand any reason, then you think that maybe it must be the work of jinnat, etc. But then, in my life, that day came when I understood everything, because one night I saw that my goat Rano was making a very loud meowing sound. It was winter season, so I used to sleep very deeply. I was sleeping very deeply, but when the goat screamed, when the noises became too much, I got worried. I clearly understood that my goat was in some trouble. Either he had a stomachache, he'd eaten something or the other, or there was some other issue. But when I went towards the goat, I saw that I was shocked to see the scene. There was a strange scene in front of my eyes. Rano, my goat whom I had raised like my own child and now no more in this world. My beloved goat was lying on the ground, and near it was a small baby. The one of whom I was a child. I did not immediately understand what was happening. There was a strange fear in my heart, and I was watching this scene without any hesitation. Then my eyes fell on my wife Shaheen standing near the goat who was standing there. I asked, "What are you doing here?" Shaheen replied, "I too, like you, have come here after hearing the voices. Look, what is happening with this child and this Rano goat? This condition of the goat seemed to me to be something else. That too in this scene." She was upset to see that there was restlessness on her face too, and both of us were trying to understand this while looking at each other. I got upset for some time, and during that time this news spread in the whole neighborhood. The goat had killed the human child. She had given birth and left this world. The only thing on people's lips was how a goat gave birth to a human child. Shaheen then asked me to take this child to an orphanage and leave it there before the media came to know about it. I thought about it for a while. There was a ruckus, but there was a strange pain in my heart. I decided that we would not leave this child to be orphaned, but still there was a question in our hearts, where would we keep this child? At the same time, Najma came to me and said, "This child is in my lap. Put it in. I will take care of it." I was surprised. I said, "You are going to become a mother again and you already have 2 children. How can you handle 4 children?" Najma replied, "Just like I handled the first 2 children. I will handle these 2. And then she looked at Shaheen as if there was some secret hidden in her eyes, which she did not want to tell me. Shaheen also remained silent, and I saw deep trouble on her face, but she did not say anything. I was talking about Najma, but I was thinking about it and was feeling a strange uneasiness in my heart. It was true that Najma had always brought up her children with great love, but this time whatever was happening had become a new problem for me. Najma was the one raising that child about whom everyone thought that the goat had given birth to a human-like child, and the child was very weak, and I took her to the doctor. The doctor said that the child is very weak, but will get better with time. It will happen. Seeing Najma's condition, I felt very sad, and thought in my heart what a big mistake I had made by putting her in trouble. As the child was growing, Najma kept taking care of him, and I was thinking in my heart, now what about this? What will happen again one day? It happened that another difficult time came in my life. Shaheen, my second wife, disappeared from home. She left a letter in which it was written that now I can no longer live with an old man like you. Now I am leaving you forever. She also took with her all the gold and other things she had. She left the house ruthlessly as if nothing had happened. When Shaheen left, Najma told me a strange thing. She said, this child that you had given me, it belongs to Shaheen. She had given birth to him by being unfaithful to you, and when she was leaving this child with Rano's goat, she was leaving the goat from this world. She was trying to accuse the goat had giving birth to a human child, and I had seen everything with my own eyes. On hearing this, my world was destroyed in a moment. I couldn't believe it. There was a sea of anger, hatred and pain inside me. Not only did he betray me, but he also killed my beloved goat Rano. She left this world, and she wanted to allege that the goat had given birth to a child. In front of my eyes was everything that Shaheen had done, and then she did all this to me and ran away with someone else. It was as if the person inside had died. I was filled with anger, and I thought that the person who disgraced me and my honor in this way would have to take some account of it. I was fighting with myself. I remember those moments of my life, the darkest black. It took a moment when I realized how Shaheen had betrayed me and played with my life. That anger and sadness of mine were still clear, and I had lodged a report against Shaheen that whenever she comes back, she will be taken to task by the law. She should not be saved. She stole things from my house and ran away. I went to her mother and told her these things, but what could she do? She said, my daughter is like that. When I asked the woman who arranged the relationship, she said, you want a young and beautiful girl. I had Najma. I apologized to her and started living with her again. I helped her in taking care of the children, and I also got her a maid. She always told me to hire a maid to help me. I said that I would marry again, but now I had got her a maid who used to help her with the household chores. I told her that when you came to know about all this, why didn't you tell me? She said, if I had told you, you would have understood that I blame your wife. I am saying this. That's why I was silent, but she revealed her reality. So Najma's humanity was there too. I did a lot of bad things to her, and I want to tell everyone that your wife is fat, black, whatever you are. Live with her, but don't be hasty, and bring such a girl into your life who will destroy your happy house. I miss my goat Rano very much. Friends, Sajid loved Rano goat very much, but his second wife. He also lost the goat in the matter of marriage, and his wife wanted to blame him for how the goat had given birth to a child like a human being, although that child was not of the goat but of his second wife. How did you like this video? Comment box. Please do let us know, and don't forget to like the video and share it with your friends.